Hi, my name's AJ. I'm a senior finance recruitment consultant covering the Derbyshire and South Yorkshire markets for SF Recruitment. I'm a business manager and I've worked for the last little over 10 years in the recruitment industry. I wasn't actually looking for a role when I was approached by SF originally to join the business. It was one of those situations where I reached out of the blue with a really good opportunity, and the idea being was they're looking to bring in somebody experienced to join the business, and it turned out to be an opportunity that was just too good to be true to say no to, really. I've got two little girls, both under the age of 2, which keep me pretty busy. And that's one of the biggest factors for me, really, was having that flexibility to spend more time with my children and my wife and spend time as a family. I think leaving a successful desk was a challenge in itself because I knew the market, I knew what I knew, and I was comfortable with where I was at the time. But ultimately, I think when I look back at my process from leaving my old employer to joining SF, one of the biggest areas that I had to get my head round was the fact that somebody had been successful running that desk historically anyway. So picking up what was quite a warm desk and making a success of that, and filling those boots, I guess, was something that probably was at the forefront of my mind. But I think the way that the business has been in terms of the transition and joining the business and all the information and data I've been given, plus the transition of the existing consultants helping with that, is that transition of the relationships with the clients has been really, really smooth. And it probably wasn't a cause for concern at all, because ultimately that relationship and the existing balance of SF relationship with the clients was already there to be nurtured and just pick up and develop as I joined the business. One of the biggest surprises I've had is some of the balance of relationships that the organisation has with some clients of all different sizes. Naturally, those have been formed through great relationships with senior decision makers, and those have already in existence since joining the business. You can come in and hit the ground running in terms of building those relationships yourself and picking those up off the back of the good work that people have already done. Some of the best things about joining SF are some of the benefits that you have that you just don't already think of. So the business is really good thinking outside the box in terms of little benefits that you can always get. So there's no restrictions in terms of if you want to take your client for lunch, or if you want to really go above and beyond in terms of recognising a candidate that has gone in and done a great job for you as a temp, or say congratulations to somebody you've placed, then taking them out for lunch or for a coffee or something like that. One of the best benefits is the free coffee that you can get as part of your perk box benefits, or the well-being benefits that exist, and all the different things that are tagged into that. There is a lot of things that just make your day-to-day stand out a little bit beyond just the billings and the financial rewards that you get as well. There's no clock watching, there's no sort of checking in and out of times that you start in your role. It's about that ability to be a grown-up approach to your job, and ultimately balance work and family life. When I look back at my initial joining time at SF and leaving my previous employer, I had a little bit of nerves, but I think it was more fear of the unknown than the actual process itself. It was more not necessarily knowing what I didn't know that triggered a little bit of nervousness initially, but ultimately it was more actually quite exciting to try something new and join a team who had been really nice in terms of the transition, and lots of touch points to get me integrated into the business prior to actually joining, which was quite actually exciting. So the interview process was pretty seamless actually, and I had an initial briefing from the recruitment expert that brought me into the business, introduced me to Rebecca Parnell, who's the managing director, and I had a long chat with Rebecca initially prior to going on holiday, where Bex told me a little bit more about the business, the process, what it was going to look like, and the reasons around the desk. And the best thing about that was there was complete transparency from Rebecca's side about the scope of the role, why the people had left initially, what the team was like I was going to be working alongside, and that wasn't just within finance but the entire wider business and how it was structured, and actually a lot around the unique USPs that SF has as a business, whether it be the business development team, the marketing team, and the operations team that sit in the background. It was more fact finding about the business, what they enjoyed working with SF, what was great about the desk in itself, but also what was great about the team in the office. And then ultimately, as a third stage beyond that, I then met with Rebecca again face to face to have a bit of a chat through what the desk might look like, and drilling down into some of the kind of key elements of the role in itself. I think that was a really nice approach to the way that they were bringing an experienced hire into the business to make sure that I understood what I was coming into, and they understood a lot more about me as a person rather than the key metrics around a particular desk, which was actually quite a refreshing approach. And in terms of the culture in itself, it was something that I could see myself really easily transitioning into, because a lot of what SF do as a business is very much based around relationships and developing relationships with clients and candidates, rather than drilling home KPIs and KPIs for KPI's sake, which I think is a really refreshing approach to what we do as a business. And I can see that, having joined now nearly 6 months into the business, how that transition has been the whole way through, and what makes us unique as a business. That really knocks home in terms of the way that every other consultant in the business operates as a recruiter. So in terms of culture, it was a really clean fit for me, and I think it's a really refreshing change versus a lot of other agencies out there in the market. I think the way that SF operates as a culture and as an overarching business allows people to make the best of themselves, and it recognises people's individual strengths, what could be next, and where would I want to go with my career. So even in the first 6 months, there's been lots of conversation with me about what I want to do next, and it's not just about the here and now, it's about the long term for me and the business. I think since joining SF, one of the biggest things that I've seen within the business is there are a lot of people that drive a really highly successful culture within SF. There's a lot of really high performing consultants here, and I can really see why everything works as neatly as it does, and as a business why SF has become so successful and continued, particularly over the most recent few years, their continued growth. And I think that comes from a lot of people operating at a really high level in whatever they do, whether that's the marketing team, the senior management team, the consultants on the ground. There's a lot of really high performing and inspirational people, and I think in essence a lot of people are their own role models within the business, because everyone sets such a high bar for themselves that ultimately that's not driven from the senior management team, it's driven from the individuals themselves. And it really is that culture that we as a business underpin in terms of our relationships with our clients and our candidates, that actually everybody is their own role model. There's people like Ellie within the team, who heads up a business development team, who has some fantastic relationships with clients that she's always been their go-to to come back to, and she's always been known because of the nature of what she does and the relationship she builds. I think one of the best things about SF, aside from their culture, is the flexibility that's on offer, and that's one of the big determining factors of me joining SF. So as a working dad with 2 young kids, I really don't want to miss out on a lot of them growing up, and the ability that SF allow me to have to balance my working life with my personal life is huge. And if I want to log off at 3 o'clock so I can take the family to the zoo, there's no questions asked, it's off you go, have a great time attitude.